Good afternoon. Welcome to today's webinar. This is Josh. I'm going to be your presenter today. But a lot of folks, and I'm just saying this as a technician who's been doing this for a long, long time, using this software for a long time, is that there are a lot of Church Windows users who think that all income that comes into the church needs to be recorded through donations, and that is simply not true. Not all income into a church is from donations or giving, as the case may be, okay? So just want to get that right out there right away and say, churches while most of the income for a church will come in from tithes and offerings and giving from members and visitors, not all income is. So we do have an option in accounting that is set up, and there are other ways in accounting that we can record income without recording it coming in through donations, okay? So when we go into accounting here, we can clearly see here that right here in the center, we've got this option called Enter Income, okay? That's the one that we're going to look at here probably for the most of the event today, okay? But I'm going to show you that there's some other ways that you can record income to the church too. The question about it always is in terms of recording the income, is where do we want to see that income posting? All right. When we click under Enter Income, this screen is designed for recording income in accounting from sources other than giving in donations. Okay. This is for the purpose of recording giving or income to the church that is not from giving and donations. Okay. So this is a really powerful window, okay, in a number of ways. There's not much difference from other transactions in Church Windows in that, of course, it requires that we, post it with a date occurred, so you can put it any day you want, whatever date you're wanting it to appear in your books, and oftentimes as close to the date that it will reflect as a deposit on the bank statement, okay? Then to the right, then payment method, again, optional. This is something I always like to remind folks is these windows, these fields, things like payment method, check number, they're optional, okay? There's no requirement to choose a payment method in association with any income transaction whatsoever. There's no requirement to enter a check or reference number for if you choose check as the payment method. As you can see from the menu, we have several options for income: check, cash, EFT, debit card, and credit card, okay? First, the other thing that I want, and this is, again, folks, I'm talking about this and why you're here today joining us is because you're going to learn some things about this that maybe you were not aware of before, okay? That's partly why we do these. But if you choose either check, notice here if I choose something like EFT, nothing appears unusual. But if I choose check or cash, okay, now notice over here to the right, I've got a little checkbox called Print on Deposit Slip, all right? What that means is that this income transaction can be included in print on a Church Windows deposit slip with or without the donations if they are posted with the same date into the same asset account, okay? So if you happen to use or print the Church Windows deposit slip and you attach your, say, bank's deposit slip to that with the church's routing and account number information on it and take it to the bank, you can combine both the accounting transactions and the donation transactions that share the same date and the same asset account on the same deposit slip, okay? And if I choose cash, it also shows has an option for print on deposit slip. It's not required to check that, but as soon as I change one of the other payment methods that include a print on deposit slip is no longer an option, okay? Typically, if I'm going to use a check, why not enter the check reference number, right? It's just for record-keeping purposes. The more information we have entered about those transactions, should we have questions that we need to come back and answer about that later, the more information we have, the better off we're going to be, okay? I'm not required to print on deposit slips, so I can still choose check enter a check number if I want, okay, and still uncheck print on deposit slip if I wish, okay. Over here to the left now, once I've entered that information, again, I can choose check and leave check or reference number blank if I want, all right. So here now, I choose the bank account. In this case, my default asset account is set up as my checking, but I can choose any of my assets in my list that I want, okay. Transaction comments, again, optional, not required. More information is better oftentimes. So it might be beneficial to record transaction comments if you want to see those on reports, okay. Yeah, so check or reference number here is for reporting and record keeping only, as is pretty much payment method in general, okay? Let's see, anything I'm missing here? Yes. So if you notice here in the upper left of each one of these fields, transaction comments, let me get out my highlighter here and draw some focus, okay? Is right here in the upper left next to payment method, I've got this little, and a lot of folks have a hard time seeing this, is these are little light switch icons right here, okay? So if I can turn off those fields, okay? So let's say you never enter transaction comments. You can come in here and I can turn off that light switch and notice that transaction comments is now inactive. Can't click in there until I re-enable the field. And so if you do not use these fields, you can disable them. And if you tab or enter through these fields, it'll save you mouse or tab or keystrokes or mouse clicks. So if you're not, and you'll see them on other transaction screens in Church Windows too. Enter bills, pay bills, journal entry transactions. You'll see them in donations. They're everywhere. Okay. So turn off those fields if you're not using them, if they've got those little light switches on them. All right. And as always, we do have the ability to attach documents and files to our transactions here, or income transaction if you wish. So just be aware that again was a feature in I think version 23 that we added the ability to attach files and documents to transactions and accounts. All right, now we're kind of coming down to the real kind of meat and potatoes about the income transaction, all right? If we notice now here below our asset account, it shows, and again, let me get my highlighter and draw some focus, income, expense, / liability account, all right? This is really important because a lot of folks are unaware of this. Again, folks, I've been doing this a long time. And while most of the income that's going to be recorded here will probably credit a for income account, if I click the down arrow here, here's general tithes and offerings, and that's where we're going to record our income today. But I also like to remind folks you can credit an expense account. If we go down past the 4s into the 5s, I can credit an expense, or I can even go down further past my expenses, and ultimately it will reveal my accounts payable, vendors, and all of my liability accounts if I wish to put that or credit that income there. Okay. In this case today, we're going to go ahead and record income to our rental income. We got rental property here, so I'm choosing rental income, and I'm going to put in an amount of, $678.90. Whoop, wrong account, Josh. Let me try that again. Rental income, enter. So there's my rental income. I can enter comments here, line item comments if I wish. May 2024 rental income. Rental property income, and I'm crediting that income account, okay? When I click done, add to batch and show running balance, we now show that rental income had a 0 income. We've just rented that property out starting in May. Here's our transaction effect and the adjusted balance. So it's doing exactly what I want, okay? But again, one of the things that we want to make sure that we're aware of is when we're under enter income, maybe I want to reduce an expense account, okay? So I'm receiving a reimbursement for something, maybe a refund check for something that I purchased, say, for the library. All right, I don't know if I've got anything here. Let me see if I can find something where I think I've got something. Flowers. For some reason, I'm receiving a credit for flowers that's going to appear on my deposit slip. So if I put in, say, an amount there, $12.34, and again, similarly click Done, Add to Batch, and Show Running Balance, notice it is having a negative or credit effect on the expense account. If I had a year-to-date or current balance in there, folks, it would be lower. But that's the point. A credit to an expense reduces its balance. I've returned something to a vendor or a company that I've done business with. They've sent me a refund check. I want to reduce that expense account by the amount of the money that I'm receiving back, and I still have to have it appear on my bank reconciliation as a deposit. Okay? The entering of the income, crediting the expense account does exactly what I want it to do. Okay? And finally, when we're talking about it here under something like a liability account, okay? So maybe, like a good example in this case is, maybe I'm receiving a wedding deposit for a wedding later here this spring. Don't want it to show up on the treasurer's report as income because it's not over yet, any income, and that's not the amount, but I'm receiving now, say, a deposit check from the family for the, for the use of, say, the fellowship hall or something, or the wedding in general, and I'm receiving a $500 deposit for that. Okay, so I can say, Smith wedding deposit. And when I click again, Done, Add to Batch, and Show Running Balance, my wedding deposit showed a 0 current balance. A transaction effect is adding in 500, and there's my adjusted balance. So that money will simply sit in that liability account for my wedding deposits until I need to pay folks out of it, the pastor, the custodian, whomever, and then I can journal entry money from the liability back down to income for any income the church has actually ended up receiving on that. Okay, so again, enter income is a really useful transaction type when we're dealing with money coming into the church that is not considered giving or donations. Okay, really powerful. Okay, crediting both an income account, typical, but the occasional need for maybe crediting an expense account to reduce its year-to-date balance, or to be able to put money into a liability to be held to either pay out later or just to simply be stored without affecting or hitting our treasurer's report in that case. That's the thing about the crediting a liability, folks, is it just sits on the balance sheet in a liability account, never touches the treasurer's report, never shows up as either crediting an income, an account, or crediting an expense, okay? So that bypasses the treasurer's report entirely and only sits there on the balance sheet, okay? So again, just really nice, useful thing here for us to be aware of is this transaction, not all your income has to be recorded through donations, okay? So one of the other things I want to do here is I'm going to go ahead and post this, okay? So I'm not going to print it. I'm going to jump into donations here real quick, and I'm going to just post a really quick batch here for 5/8 with an item added to it for today's date, because I want to show you yes, it's not 6/4, Josh, today 5/8, there we go, or 5/8, I did 5/8, didn't I? Yes, it's in the future. I'm going to choose a giver, and I'm going to choose Jack Albin, and we're going to say that we got $1,000 from him. Done, add to batch. Key in a check or reference number. I just want to show how, when we do this post and transfer, how when we do the, and transfer that into accounting, and how we can include that on the deposit slip for all those transactions, okay? So then when we go now this doesn't matter, folks, whether I do this in donations or accounting, okay? If I've got giving and donations and accounting on the same day, I go to reports and export, compare and analyze, donation reports, deposit slip, okay? If I choose, say, 5/8 and no batch codes, and I choose, I can't choose the asset here. That's why I can't do it here. I'm sorry, folks. So we have to do that there in accounting. My fault. Let's go back over into accounting and let's see if we can generate this here. So reports, deposit slip, 5/8, Huntington Bank checking. See, here are my income transactions here and my $1,000 check here for Jack Albin, all on here. And I've got down here, and let me get out my highlighter just to steer a little focus again. Right here, it says include accounting entries and donation entries. So as again, as long as it's the same asset account, the same date, and I've included those income transactions on my deposit slip, requested to do that, my deposit slip report can include everything that comes in from accounting or is entered as income in accounting and in donations. Okay, so when I now go to print on there, it will bring up everything. And it'll put it all in one deposit slip and allow me to maybe attach that to my deposit slip and give that and take that in and deposit it at the bank. So a common misunderstanding, and I just hope that clarifies some here for you. Okay. Last 2 minutes here. So again, just be aware, deposit slip, really, really useful as well. Finally, maybe you want to record an income transaction that is not income in terms of entering income, but you still need to have it show. You can go up to journal entry, other transactions, other, and either adjust asset or journal entry transaction. So another option for that would be under adjust asset. Let's say we want to show a change in value in our investment accounts. So adjust asset is a journal entry, and it does just what I need it to do. So we're going to come down here and we're going to choose our Lynn Schwab investment, and we're going to say we're going to increase that. It has been a good quarter in that respect, or good month, and so we're going to say that we've received that amount of money, and we can enter comments. And then down here, let's see, when we go down into our fund balance accounts, folks, I'm going down to the funds. We have to choose the fund right here that we would credit. Let's see here. Let me pick one here. It could be anything. Education Building Fund. And then we put the same amount in there. I can split that amount if I wish. But what I'm doing here is I'm simply changing the value of these accounts on my balance sheet. They're not affecting my treasurer's report in the form of income or expense at all. But it will still show up because it's a debit into my Lynn Schwab investment account or whatever asset account I'm choosing. It will still appear on my bank reconciliation as a deposit if I'm increasing. If I decrease, of course, it'll show up as a withdrawal. Okay, but that would be the way then if I now want to do this to show a change in my value in my accounts, essentially recording a change of income, an increase or decrease in value of those investments or of accounts on my balance sheet without affecting the treasurer's report. So I simply post that, and then I've changed my balance sheet for that. So, all right, folks, that is where I'm going to leave things for our topic today.